Hey guys, I'm Parrot, what's crackin', and welcome to a Call of Duty video. This isn't gonna be a funny moments video like my usual vids.
Are you bull-fucking?
Instead, what I want to do is a review on the new raid that has been released for Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. If you don't know what these raids are, chances are you haven't been playing Modern Warfare 2 and you should probably keep it that way. Just kidding. But essentially, these raids are only playable if you have a party of 3 players. You can't have 2 players and you can't have 4 players. Specifically 3. I don't know why, but these raids are essentially a continuation of the main campaign. The first raid, by my opinion, kinda sucked a little bit, and if you want to see how much it sucked, you can go ahead and watch a funny moments video of that raid. Well, truthfully, the third half of the raid is what sucked, and that's because of how you have to do a certain puzzle with your allies, while also fighting NPCs at the same time. That will be relevant in this video, by the way. Spoiler alert, if you have no idea what happens in the main storyline within these raids, although personally, there isn't really too much to spoil. I'm not blown away by the story, but if you really want to find out for yourself what happens, you have the chance to now. That's if you have 2 other friends that you can play the game with. With that out of the way, the second raid starts from where the first raid ends. You discover Farah's dead troops and a gigantic freaking missile. And from there, the raid starts off with a little parkour. The enemies are also here as well, and they try to come and find us. Thankfully, they're freaking stupid. We make our way up and tactically navigate through the hallways, killing any enemies that get in our way. We're also introduced to a little bit of steam coming out of the pipes as well.
I hear a minigun going off in the back.
Are we back to the way we...
Oh! Armor!
We're greeted with more parkour, only this time, we have to use teamwork now too, as there's steam blowing out of the pipes, and the only way to turn it off is by turning a valve which will change the flow of the steam. Therefore, we have to have a player stay down so that they can change the flow of the steam for whatever players are up parkouring. Once a player reaches the top, they may change the steam flow with their own valve, allowing the player that stayed down to come up as well. We did some more navigating, having to drop through some holes and crawl through spaces because what's the fun in just walking through hallways the whole time? Eventually, we are greeted to a timed parkour section of the raid where we have to hit 3 buttons at the same time and then parkour our way across ventilation lids. This part of the raid wouldn't have been so bad if we didn't have to get the timing down while doing the whole parkour process as fast as we could. The catch with the parkour was that 2 people couldn't be on the same platform at the same time. And once all the platforms were up, each one would slowly close back down in the same order in which they were activated. So we couldn't do the whole parkour one person at a time. We had to do the parkour together during the same time frame. And it didn't matter if one of us made it to the end. If we didn't all make it to the end, whoever did make it to the end has to come all the way back by climbing a ladder and going across a balcony, or killing themselves in order to respawn back at the start of the parkour stage.
Get your ass down here. I dare you to jump off down there. I dare you to do it. Jump down there. Do it. Just from that height.
Which meant that each of us had to jump to the next platform behind the other person at almost the same time, without 2 of us jumping on the same platform. We quickly got the rules behind the parkour down, but it took us a bit of time before we eventually, in the next half hour, were finally able to complete the first set of this parkour stage. Thank you for actually jumping, Kyle! Thank you!
We did it!
Wait it, guys!
Don't jump into that fucking portal!
Do I jump down here?
Oh my god!
No,
Stop.
don't jump.
Yeah, go do
Don't
that,
jump.
do that.
Behind
Parrot,
you
are
lot.
fucking... Yes, be behind us if you want. You wanna be Stop it, Parrot!
Yeah, that's right. There was another set that we had to do. We went ahead and tried for it, and the parkour session straight up juked us. What? No, it changed! The lid that I expected to lift didn't lift, and instead, one of the right of us lifted instead. Thankfully, if we died, we could just respawn right there where we left off. Oh, we get to respawn up here. We don't have to restart the whole thing.
Ooh, so I can do this as much as I want!
Now, there was something stupid that happened during our attempts at the second parkour stage. I had accidentally saved my life when falling off, but I fell off at the first parkour stage area, and for some stupid reason, my spawn was reset back there, because when I tried to commit die, that's just where I would respawn at, which meant to get back across, we all had to make it over here where I was, and do stage 1 again.
What?
What?
Parrot, I swear to God, if you fucking glitched our game.
Hey, I didn't develop this stupid puzzle.
Come on, Droid! Move it! Move your fucking tiny legs! You're not going to that portal!
We completed it, went back to stage 2, being more careful not to do what I did again. We made it through stage 2 and were able to continue on through the level. As we fought our way through some more enemies, we made it to an area where we had to zip line up. We kept fighting through more enemies on each level, and then ran through an exit dead end, We parkour up on another level, fought some enemies, and dead end, we had to zipline up another level again, except this time, enemies weren't the only thing in our way. Up this zipline, there was a fire blowing out of a pipe, blocking our path. The only way to turn it off was by turning a valve, but it only turned it off for a second, which meant we had to time this. That meant taking turns ziplining while someone timed the valve and then turned off the fire, just as one of us were about to zipline up. At the top, there was also a valve that turned off the fire, which allowed the player that was left behind to get up as well. Cause, you know, we ain't actually leaving anybody behind. Us soldiers gotta stay together. We fought our way through some more enemies, up to the point where we were greeted with another parkour session with the stupid stop sign lids. Again, we were high up above where we did the other parkour stages, which made the falling and dying that much more fun, but I learned my lesson last time about saving my own life from falling. We attempted the parkour stage about 100 times till we finally completed it and were able to move on. We dropped down a hole, and now instead of having to navigate through hallways, we had to navigate through dark hallways. Ooh, spooky. We dropped through another hole, where enemies awaited us. I was suddenly ambushed from all directions as my allies jumped down with me. I did the most logical thing I could think of in this situation and dropped to the ground in a prone position. And I just kept firing at whatever enemies I could at whatever angles I could find. There were even multiple riot shield units, which are annoying as frick, but thankfully I was in the prone position, so I was just able to shoot them in their legs. These suckers deserve to get all their toes shot off. As we navigated through, we were able to gear up with some better weapons just chilling on the wall for us to freely take. We find a door, which we carefully breach in a delicate and safe manner by blowing it up with C4 charges. I hear something beeping,
Get away
guys!
from the door!
We make our way through and find ourselves in a gigantic room with control panels for us to use across the wall of the room. There were 3 switches for us to interact with, and they were there so that we could do, once again, another puzzle. Only this time, the puzzle was different. There was a series of rooms filled with toxic gas from the chum bucket, and we had to make our way through, but not without the help of our teammates, who had to stay behind to activate switches for whoever was running through the toxic gas-filled rooms. There was one switch that ventilated the gas. That was how we'd be able to run safely through the rooms, but you can't enter without opening the door that's keeping all the lethal gas in, which there's a computer terminal for. And then, there's a middle part of the room you'll be escaping through, where you have to turn off some random fans, but you have to turn them off when the person running through the rooms actually gets there. And then, there's a door at the end of the escape sequence that we have to open for the person using the same computer terminal that opened the first door to let our person in, but only when they are at the door, or the door will just close on them before they can actually get there, as the death gas refills the rooms. This requires teamwork, needless to say, but it's not all that hard to do. That being said, developers felt they needed to make this thing just a tad bit more challenging, so what do? As we help our fellow escaper through the gas rooms, we have to be faced with random enemies pouring into the area all at the same time. And you don't just get a handful of enemies each time you open the gas doors, you get well over a dozen of these guys just randomly coming out to attack you, and it's so freaking annoying, because now you can hardly click the buttons that you need to click to help your fellow escaper through the gas rooms. It's not as simple as just killing them and then pressing the buttons, because these guys just come out so inconsistently and randomly, and they don't seem to stop at times. The game doesn't strategically spawn the enemies in, it just pours them in with no regard in how many enemies it should be spawning in and where. They just appear in all directions at the same time and continue to spawn in a little more as you fight them. There's no wave-based system, there's no telling when they are about to come out again. All you know is that they will come out after the first person starts their run through the gas rooms. And it's just utter chaos. You don't know what the heck the spawns are doing afterwards. When you think you just cleared out all the enemies, you may or may not be greeted with 7 more of them in all directions out of nowhere, with nowhere for you to immediately run the cover to. Because they got you covered in all angles, just scattered about randomly. In your mind, you're telling yourself, oh my gosh, please just stop spawning. And where the heck did these guys even come from? Because these guys just completely disrupt the process of the players trying to communicate with what the others are doing, just because of how randomly these enemies are being carelessly poured into the room at any given moment. This isn't how enemy spawning should work. Honestly, it makes me want to go to a game that actually does it right and knows what it's doing when spawning in enemies, just so I can make a comparison. Like freaking Halo, or even Left 4 Dead. And I don't know what it is, but half the time you don't even notice these enemies appearing in the most random places. You don't hear any footsteps or anything, and they just poke out from a corner out of nowhere by you and shoot you halfway to death. It's like they purposely hide from you as you look around for them, just to pop out randomly when you turn around or whenever they please. When you do finally take out every single one of them, the moment you get them all spawning in again, It's the same thing over again, spawning in from all random directions, running straight at you, literally just trying to pour on top of you. And it's 10 times worse when you got the riot shielders running straight at you with no warning. And they shoot you halfway to death before you can even notice them, with nowhere else safe for you to run to in time. Now these enemies aren't hard to fight. They're literally just annoying and random. And they appear on both sides of the gas rooms, by the way. I forgot to mention, there are 2 sides of the gas rooms. There's the first part with the control panels and stuff that you first enter into, but when you run through the gas rooms, by the time you make it to the other side, you enter a very similar room that also has control panels for whoever makes it there to activate, so they can help whoever else is running through the gas rooms, well, you know, make it through. So one person is gonna have to fight off all of their own enemies by themselves. Typically the first person to make it through the gas rooms, and then the last person to go is also gonna have to fight off a bunch of enemies on their own, while the middle guy goes through the gas rooms. Oh my gosh, it's never clear, is it? Stop respawning! For the love of everything! Oh, you guys are still fighting enemies?
Yes.
Yeah, they just keep fucking coming.
Y'all just decide who's going first and...
Prawn, do you want to go through or am I going through?
I'm going through.
Then go to that fucking door right now.
Kind, what control are you gonna start on?
I'm gonna do the air ventilation. You go to the fucking doors, Paris.
Got it, just let me clear out these enemies that decided to spawn in out of fudging nowhere. Leave me alone!
Remember,
My
you can,
God.
cover. What the fuck?
You haven't even started yet! Move!
Doors are open.
Don't open the doors yet!
What
Or no.
the fuck? Oh, I'm in cover.
Stop hiding!
Are you... I'm gonna fucking murder someone!
Alright, go ahead and get him.
This needs to fucking stop!
Now, I also forgot to mention, there's a stupid time limit to get all 3 of you guys through the gas rooms. If all 3 of you aren't through by the end of the time limit, you fail, because gas breach or something, I don't know. Just something random that the developers thought would make things more tense or challenging because of time pressure or some crap. But once all 3 players finally make it through the gas rooms, the new room you all arrive in needs to be cleared out of all enemies before proceeding through the last part of the level.
Guys, everyone over here! We are leaving! Fuck you, motherfucker!
And it's stupid, because if you just skip to the doors you'll be going through, the game won't even prompt you to, but you have to go back and clear out any enemies that you left behind. It's pointless enough going back to kill random stragglers when you're just supposed to be escaping the facility, but they somehow managed to make it even more pointless. You would think we're supposed to go down here, because why are there double doors here that lead down to a long hallway if that doesn't lead to anything? Oh yeah, we are supposed to go down here. We had to clear out the enemies first and it just didn't tell us. Because once you do clear out the enemies that were left in the room outside the hallway, and then regroup at the doors, you enter a gas escape sequence part of the level where gas spawns in behind you and makes its way towards you. And enemies spawn in and run at you from down the hall. Literally, what was the point of running back to kill enemies if enemies are just going to be spawning back in that room again anyway and start running down the hall towards you? Maybe the developers actually thought about the possibility of having too many enemies spawned in together, but they were just lazy and decided the players would have to clear out the stragglers themselves so that there wouldn't be any extra spawned in enemies. I don't know if that's actually the case, that's just me making a guess. The extra spawned in enemies would probably have a different AI path anyway and just wouldn't run down the hall, but I don't know. Anyway, when the doors open, you have gas closing in behind you, and you essentially just have to run and gun through the rest of the facility as gas chases you from behind, intoxicating the whole facility. I thought this would be very annoying to play through, but thankfully it wasn't, and it was actually really fun. It was actually probably my favorite part of the raid. Eventually you reach a safe room, which all 3 of you must run into before closing a hatch behind you and ending the mission at last.
Everyone, get your asses here! We are leaving!
Come on, come on!
No!
What? Why didn't it work?
I got him. Just Parrot, back up. Run your ass in here now!
Click it. Oh, we're done. This is where we cut to a cutscene, where the whole thing we just did was to get to the top of the gigantic freaking missile, only to find that the warhead at the top of the missile was yeeted out and taken away. That could explain why my idea to just shoot and blow up the missile didn't work. But this was a problem to our protagonists because they weren't the ones with the warhead. Our protagonists hear noise behind them, and we're introduced to another protagonist. Maybe hopefully the next raid will be 4 players this time. We slightly zoom in into Farrah's face, and then the cutscene ends. Then the game rates us with 1 star.
Bitch!
The same rating that I would give these raids so far. So that was raid number 2. I'm not a big fan of these raids, and while we get to have an experience with our friends where we get to suffer through something together, the puzzles and stuff that you get to do in these raids, they aren't bad, and the need for good communication is fun, and I don't unpromote that. But the way they handle it in these is just so stupid, especially when you have to deal with buckets of enemies being poured right on top of you as you try to complete whatever challenge it is that you're greeted with. This is like trying to play Jenga blocks, carefully trying to pull a Jenga block out of the tower, and at any random given moment, Requise just starts socking you in the face, asking you why you suck at Jenga so badly. It's like trying to fish for fish in the sea, and you got frickin' wasps trying to sting you right when you have to grab the rod from being pulled into the water to reel your fish in.
They literally didn't learn anything from raid 1. The literal issue was that there's just enemies pouring in when we're trying to do stuff. That's not fun.
Yeah,
No
I mean,
one likes that.
it's
Hey,
not.
imagine trying to do a fucking test and somebody starts shaking your goddamn chair so you get the questions wrong. Where's the fun in that? Where's the fucking sitting at it? Like, oh my god, they're shaking my chair! This is
Well, I mean, that's
immersive!
what boxing chess is as well.
But you don't box a person while they're chesting! That's not what you do! You take different times to do 2 things! You don't punch the person in the face when they're making a move! That's not how it works! You get up and you chess in a separate room, then you sit back down and play chess! You do not punch the person when they're making a move! That isn't the fucking game! That is what this game is doing! We are playing chess and they're punching us!
The enemies presented to you during your challenge don't make the challenge more challenging, they just make it straight up annoying. There's no method to how they spawn in, and where, and in what amount. There's just no organization to it. They're just dumped right into the area, usually in large amounts, and you just have to keep dealing with them. Freaking Left 4 Dead does the exact same thing, of just literally pouring enemies in for you to have to fight. But even that's done better than how these raids do it. And we're not fighting zombies. These guys have guns, so usually they can just shoot you from any distance before they actually get close to you. You could say Halo Firefight also does the same thing almost, but in waves and in moderation. The way these raids do it feels so random and messy. I'm just glad I didn't have to deal with these guys while doing the stupid parkour sections of the raid. I swear, if we had to deal with enemies spawning in and shooting us from the sidelines like game show guests that get to shoot contestants as a challenge for us while we try to get through the parkour as it is already, I couldn't imagine having to fight back and shoot back at enemies while trying to complete these parkour stages. Actually, I can imagine. And it would have been awful if they designed it that way. And I would not be surprised if they were actually about to. But yeah, that was the second raid for Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. If you guys enjoyed this video and would like to see more of these types of videos, let me know in the comments, and I will make more of these videos where I talk about and review things. This video was fun to do. I got to vent out my frustration about something I played, and talk about my opinions on something. And hopefully you guys agree with what I had to say about this raid. If you have any different opinions, let me know what they are in the comments. If you feel differently about something, or if you'd like to add on to anything that I said, or if you feel like I missed something. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. Subscribe for more, like the video to support it and to help get it through the algorithm a little bit better, and hopefully I will see you guys all again next time. Peace out.
I will find a light in your soul.